Hey everyone, welcome to Someone You Need to Know. I'm your host, Rashanah Baldwin, award-winning journalist, powerful storyteller, and social architect. Each episode, we dive into the stories of trendsetters, change makers, and everyday heroes who are shaking things up and making a real difference. Get ready to hear the good news you won't find in the headlines, inspiring stories of people leaving the world better than they found it. Now, let's dive into Someone You Need to Know. Welcome to Someone You Need to Know. I am back for a brand new season. It is 2025. I haven't put out an episode in almost 3 years. COVID was COVIDing and life was lifing, but I'm super excited to be putting out more episodes, brand new episodes for 2025. I miss interviewing individuals who are doing great things around the world, around the city, around the country. And today I'm so excited to talk to one of my very close colleagues in the business of real estate, Miss Cassandra Sneed.
How you doing?
You look cute. You're gorgeous. You're
Thank
gorgeous.
you are too. I love your backdrop, your actual bookshelf. I love that. I gotta help me out. I need some inspiration.
I have like cluttered mess over here. So I was also trying to be aesthetically pleasing for the viewers who's going to see this podcast also on YouTube and TV. So yeah, I was trying to, take some of my Barbie doll settings. Look at this. Look. I'm going to leave it in here too.
You gotta put that up there. Why you take it down?
Oh, girl. And I have a Barbie dream card that I'm not going to put a convertible.
Oh my God. You got to keep that. That's a part of, look, that's the fabric of your makeup. Put that up there.
I know, Barbie doll, want to be Barbie forever. I'm obsessed with Barbie, but hence.
Are you?
I'm super excited to talk to you, Miss Cassandra Sneed. I already told the people who you are and how great work you're doing as an educator, an investor, a realtor. Welcome to my podcast, Someone You Need to Know. You're definitely someone we need to know who's a tastemaker, change agent, doing great things around the city of Chicago. Give us a couple sentences about who you are and what you're doing. They already heard it from me, but let them hear it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rashanah. I feel the same way about you, honestly. You are my globetrotter. You travel across the world spreading your pixie dust. So thank you for having me on your podcast. I think this is extremely important. A little bit about myself. My name is Cassandra Sneed, principal broker of the Aspire Group powered by EXIT Strategy Realty. But outside of that, I'm a mom. I'm a yaya, right? I have a 3-year-old grandson.
Oh my
His
God.
name is Elijah. I'm still a new wife. I got married in 2022. So I'm still a new wife, right? So outside of real estate, I'm just a Southside girl, a girl from Chicago that's really trying to make sure that other people on the South Side and the West Side continue to have opportunities throughout these communities. Because as you and I both know, Rashanah, our communities are changing. And a huge part of that, not being a part of that change, a huge part of that is lack of education. Not really understanding what's going on. And so that's who I am. I'm a passionate South Side girl who loves all sides. Let me just say that. Because for me, it's bigger than just the South Side. It's about the whole of our city and community. So that's just a little bit about who I am.
I want to dive right into that and further have you elaborate. I know you started in 2006. What inspired you to get into real estate and what keeps you motivated in this field? I know you serve a variety of clients from investors to home buyers. How did you get started? What inspired you?
What inspired me is when I grew up, I had 2 cousins. Shouts out to my cousins, Butchie and Veronica. And anytime I got around them, I would hear them. Now, I was a child, so I couldn't really chime in, but I would hear them talking about properties. And, we got to go in. And back in the day, they collected the rent. So they pulled up and collected the rent. So I would hear them saying, we got to stop here and go and collect the rent. And we got to stop here and go and collect the rent. And so that instilled something in me. And that became very interesting to me. Seeing also how they traveled the world. They're still traveling right now. As a matter of fact, I think they're traveling as we speak. So just being exposed to people who look like me, right, that have the experience of being owners. And I'll even talk about my dad. My dad and my mom purchased back in 1982. I was 4 when they purchased our family house, which is in New City, which was formerly Englewood before they moved the boundaries. I just want to put that out there. But to this day, we still own that home. And I was able to grow up in that home. My daughter was able to grow up in that home. And here we are 40 plus years later. And now my grandson is growing up in that home. And so just being able to hang on to those pieces of land, right, that property, being able to pass it down as much as possible was important. And so I was inspired in 2006 to buy a building on the west side of Chicago in K-Town. Had no idea what was going on in the industry. I didn't really have the guidance that many people provide to their clients today, which is what inspired me to go into real estate. Because although I purchased that 2-flat in K-Town, I lost it in 2007 just from lack of education, not understanding what I should do as a landlord, not using proper protocols, not properly pre-screening my tenants. Within a year, that building was gone. And so I sat at the table as I was going through this short sale, which is one step before you get foreclosed on, feeling really defeated, right, and disappointed. And I heard a voice say, learn from this. Don't beat yourself up. You know how many people wanted to get where you are? You know how many generational curses you broke just by trying, getting over that fear. And so I said, okay, I'm going to learn from this. And that is really what motivated me. But the crazy thing is I didn't get my license until 10 years later, just because life kept lifing. So that's what inspired me.
What made you move to the West Side? And also, was there any regrets in doing a 2-flat or in being a landlord?
So I didn't, so this is what was crazy. This is how I was not experienced. I wasn't even living in Chicago at the time. I was living in Woodridge. And Woodridge is about 45 minutes away from the west side of Chicago on I-55. I didn't even live in the building. It was my first investment property. So my biggest mistake was just not understanding the importance of, one, being able to get to your property in a reasonable amount of time, because there were times where I needed to get there and I just couldn't. And I think that tenants knew that. They knew that I couldn't get there right away. So behaviorally, they would do certain things knowing I couldn't get there right, because they're like, oh, by the time she come, we're going to be able to clear this up. The basement unit or the ground unit, they turned that into a trap house, unfortunately. They knew that I couldn't. It was certain days that they knew that I could come to the city, right? So I would get calls from people across the street like, oh yeah, it's like 3 guys out there. So eventually I had to let the building go, obviously, but I didn't live on the west side. It was just a beautiful brick building and I loved it, and it was spacious, and I had all these audacious goals. Didn't have a lick of experience, didn't have anybody guiding me. And unfortunately, I later found out that the person who guided me towards that building was not even a licensed real estate broker. They were just somebody that was working for the lender. They were all kind of like in cahoots. And so now regulations are so much stricter. There are more protections in place, but I didn't have that protection. But I also wanted to make sure that people learn from my mistakes.
That is some good information. With this being Fair Housing Month, we're going to eventually talk about some protocols and equity laws passed about being a smarter and just discrimination and all of that.
Yeah.
But you brought up points about home ownership and the community impact, and both us being from Englewood and investing in the South Side. Let's talk about home ownership. Why is owning a home still one of the most powerful tools of building generational wealth, specifically in communities of color? And oftentimes, to add to that, and I know you can attest that we hear our kinfolk, no, home ownership ain't for you. How you gonna afford it? The statistics in Englewood says the area median income is $23,000. Home ownership for who? Let's do affordable apartments. I know I'm giving you a loaded question.
You already know.
Yeah. Could we become villains when we talk about you still can build and buy a home in Englewood, in Lawndale? Home ownership is needed. They shy away from it, build all these lofty, affordable, new, innovative apartment buildings, but Okay, answer that question.
So I would say first and foremost, hold on, say the first question again, because I'm stuck
Why
on the second
home
question.
ownership, a powerful tool for
Oh,
generational wealth,
okay.
specifically in our communities?
Yeah, so I would say specifically in our communities, it's important because we have lost so much equity within our communities, unfortunately, due to restricted covenants and other systematic racism programs that were placed specifically in our communities. I mean, Chicago was a model for how people could utilize racism in other communities outside of Illinois. So it was extremely important for our families to try to acquire that wealth. They wanted it. Our ancestors wanted it. Our grandparents and great grandparents fought for it. And they worked very hard to achieve it, not knowing that they were under the restricted covenants laws, that they did not, in fact, own these homes, that they were renting these homes. And so one mistake, and they lost everything. They lost the equity, all of the time that they put in, all of the money that they've invested. And Englewood specifically lost billions of dollars in equity just based on those restricted covenant laws, because landlords could then evict tenants, evict your family, and they would turn around and charge 30-40% more to the next Black family. And so that cycle continued to repeat, not just here in Chicago, but in urban communities throughout the United States. And so for me, owning is extremely important. Now I'm going to address the issue of people feeling like, Englewood is not a place where we should be investing. Other people are investing in Englewood.
Say it loud enough for the people in the back.
Other people are investing in Englewood. When you can see a $420,000 two-flat go up in Englewood or be rehabbed, 2013, 2014, 2015, you could get a two-flat in Englewood for under $100,000. You can't touch Englewood right now for under 300, 400,000, especially if it's rehabbed. And so we have to identify that we need to fix our communities from the inside out. We have to start investing in our communities. We have to start sitting in the rooms where these decisions are being made and not be so one-minded, one-sided. Sometimes we're not going to agree, but we need to be at the table when these decisions are being made about these different programs. And I think that's extremely important for all of our communities. I'm not against the affordable housing initiatives that are coming out, but I also think that, again, if we're at the table more, explaining what we need, not allowing somebody to spoon feed us things that they feel like we need. If we're not at those tables, our voices will not be heard. And that doesn't just happen around election time. It happens when those cameras are not around, right? It happens when you're tired, but you don't want to jump on that live Zoom, or you don't want to go to that community meeting. We have to be fully engaged and immersed within our community so we can identify what we need and we can voice that to those that are in the higher power making those decisions.
What I want to add to that, and maybe elaborate, is when we see these new prices being set in our communities at $400,000, what can we do to change that? Because we see other folks who don't look like me and you setting the values in our neighborhoods now.
Yeah.
And we also see some of our same kin folks who just shy away. I'm just going to get the apartment. Look at this house, it's $400,000. Is there something we can do to change that? Please elaborate it. Yeah.
Again, it goes back to education, because what we see is a $300,000, $400,000 property, but we don't know that the same loan that will give you one door will give you up to four. We don't know that we can leverage rental income. And even if we do know that we can leverage rental income, there's such a fear in being a landlord, because Chicago is a tenant-friendly city. A lot of people understand that the state of Illinois is a tenant-friendly state, but that doesn't mean that you can't put proper protocols in place to properly pre-screen, to stay engaged with your tenants. I'll use one of my girlfriends. She's an investor. She has properties, but a portion of her tenants' rent goes to the side because she helps them go into ownership. And so being able to build those relationships, right, being able to build those relationships and being able to really have a commitment to your tenants. I feel like tenants, when they understand that you really truly care for them, they're going to deal with things a little bit differently. And so that incentivizes them to do the right thing. If something goes wrong, that incentivizes them to have that conversation. But for landlords, that's on us too. We have to create those safe spaces for our tenants and have those tough conversations. Don't shy away, because a lot of times it's about education. So even though we see these properties and they're $300,000, $400,000 and that monthly mortgage seems to be a little bit out of reach, imagine if you were able to rent out a couple of those doors and help that, help that tenant while also helping yourself bring that mortgage payment down on a monthly basis. So again, it goes back to education.
Good answer. That's spot on. And it leads me to the next question of, individuals who feel homeownership is out of reach. They see those price points.
Yeah.
What advice or tools would you offer to help them get started to the pathway of homeownership? Yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example of that. That's a great question. This past Saturday, my daughter has a rental unit. My daughter is a second generation real estate broker, so it's also about exposure, helping the people that are coming from behind understand that this is an industry that we need to be in. They need to see us in our communities. We need to be helping to shape what our community should look like. But outside of that, there was a young lady who came, and she came to look at the rental. And she was just asking me all kind of questions. And she said, "Do you also do sales?" I said, "Honey, I mostly do sales. My daughter is out of town right now, so I am standing in the gap for her while she's traveling for spring break." I said, "But yeah, what questions do you have?" And just that one question, "Do you do sales?" turned into me doing an entire presentation for the renters that were there looking at this rental unit, right? So being able to help people understand you work hard every day. The same way you're getting ready to get this landlord $1,800 is the same way you can be building equity and building a foundation for generational wealth. That same $1,800 can help you send your child to college. That same $1,800 can help you build your real estate portfolio. It can help you possibly get out of debt and pay some debt down at some point. So it's really just about creating those spaces and being able to acknowledge when somebody is really in need of that education.
And we acknowledge that $1,800 in rent. 2020, my mortgage is not even $1,800 with my association fees.
See?
Can we say that loud for the folks in the back in our communities when they're not understanding that we're in the middle of inflation? Rents are going up. Interest rates are 7%. So it's like, I want to shift the narrative, the mindset. Like, not everyone wants to be a homeowner. Totally understand, but don't push your projections and mindset and use data that we see from the census that says the area median income and who can afford it. Well, if you're already paying $1,800 in rent, if you're already working as a teacher, lifeguard, you're paying that mortgage right now. So it's like
clearly you can afford it.
It's mind blowing. It's also like you don't have to buy the $300,000 house. Some people may not want to do an HGTV, but you could go get a home that doesn't look like Jason and Freddy Krueger, halfway remodel it. I'm not saying get the worst house in the city to remodel, but it's like, be smart, be wise. And it's just mind blowing. I'm not against affordable apartments either, but they can't be the answer and the solution to our neighborhoods on the South and West side. Let's just build a bunch of affordable, beautiful rentals.
Yeah.
But
that goes back to us, right? That goes back to us making sure that we are at those tables. That goes back to us making sure that we're continuing to teach our communities. Not everybody is going to listen, but the ones, the twos, the threes, and the fours, those people that are engaged. That young lady called me back after that open house on Saturday. She said, "Oh my God, Cassandra, I really enjoyed our conversation." I said, "Absolutely, I did too," because that helps me understand what I need to be focused more on when it does come to open houses, even if they are for rentals. Don't discount the people and feel like, oh, just because they're looking at this rental, they can't afford this. Well, I realize that she's a nurse. She could absolutely afford. This is someone who works day and night to make sure that we're healthy. If nobody else deserves a home to call their own, it would be her. And right before I got on this Zoom with you, I actually connected her to one of my lenders. So one of my lender partners could just talk her through it. And that's what I told her. You're not, I tell people, just because I connect you to someone, you're not obligated to work with me, right? I'm not tying you up. I just want to give you the resources. If you work with me, wonderful. I still want to see you succeed. And I believe that's another problem that we struggle with in our community. If you don't get it from me and you don't come back, I'm okay. Did you take that information and was it valuable to you? If I can see you succeed and then not include me, I'm still going to cheer for you. I'm still going to root for you, because my goal is not about me. My goal is more about you. And once you decide that you want to do this, imagine what that's going to mean for the community, because now you become someone who's been in the process. You were the same person who didn't feel like you could own. Now I don't even have to speak. Now you don't have to speak. You have cheerleaders that are going through this process that can champion this and shout it to the rooftop to their friends and family.
We need 10 more of you. So basically, you're saying you're not just in it for the commission. You're not just trying to slap someone in the house and just put them in the house for the commission. You're actually to educate them as a realtor, investor, and educator. Where
Absolutely.
so many horror stories, and I will save them. Realtors get folks in these homes.
Yes.
I'm like, the laws have changed so much now that the protections are so much better. They get folks in these homes who barely have a job. People think like home ownership is easy. It's not. It's like, the things that I think you and I both preach. You have to keep a job. If you get into trouble, there is help. Similar if you was a renter, like you're gonna have to pay that rent or find a way to figure it out. You have to be able to qualify for that loan.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about that in terms of like how do prospective buyers in our neighborhoods, under-resourced neighborhoods that me and you come from, remain competitive in today's market? Are there any specific programs, grants that they should know about when buying? Is that optionable? Most people don't even know that they can stack.
Yeah, I mean, you and I being in the industry, we understand that. But again, if you're not in this industry, you don't understand that you can take a loan and a grant, or you can find a lender who works to give you all grants. Grants are not repayable. Loans are. So just understanding that there's a difference, something as simple as understanding the difference between a grant and a loan. If you have a loan, even the grant, what's the repayable? What's the recapture amount? Or what's the recapture time frame? Do you have to live in this home for 3 years? Do you have to live in it for 10? I would say, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the city of Chicago's affordable housing initiative. The city of Chicago has all types of opportunities for people that want to own. One of them is the Chicago Housing Trust. I work on the team at Chicago Housing Trust. So not only am I a realtor, educator, and investor, but I also work helping people understand the difference and why they should own. Chicago Housing Trust works with low to moderate income families. And that orientation, I talk to people all the time. I say, even if you don't understand what it is, jump on the orientation. It's free. It's every other Thursday. You get a list of properties that are available for sale. You get to jump on a Zoom with me and my team. You get to understand the process. If you feel like the process is not for you, wonderful. At least you've done some research. I would say NACA is another program. A lot of people have their own opinions about NACA. If you do what you need to get where you need to get, if that means leveraging Chicago Housing Trust, if that means leveraging NACA, if that means leveraging down payment assistance, CHA has a $10,000 down payment assistance program if you're a non-voucher holder, and an up to $20,000 down payment assistance program if you are a voucher holder. So it's just about being in the room when these things are being shared, but also partnering with a realtor that understands these different programs, because I don't expect the common person that's fighting for their life, going to work every day, to then sit down every day and I would love for someone to do that. And I know many people do, to research all of these programs, but it's overwhelming to someone who's not in our industry. And so it's up to me to make sure that I'm able to cut that red tape for them and just share it in layman's terms. It's up to me to make sure that I build that team around them. And I think that's what the people of our community need, but we also need to understand and trust each other, because trust is a huge issue in this process. And many of our ancestors have trauma associated with ownership. So they'll talk us out of owning because of what they experienced. And I respect everything that our ancestors have experienced, but at the same time, this is my decision to make. And I need to see if this works for me and my family, just like I will want somebody else to see if it works for them and their family. To your point, $1,800 in rent, and that's on the low side. You're paying $2,000 plus. You need to be sitting down with the lender immediately trying to figure out how you can roll that in to a multifamily so that you can build generational wealth.
And their incomes be like $50,000. I make a court more than that, and I'm like, I make sure my home ownership exemption still exists. Everything. I was like, if I was paying $2,000 a month in a mortgage, listen, and you did everything perfectly too. Like you dropped all of the jewels. Give me a website. I know the city of Chicago, so that's great. You can go to the city of Chicago because these resources exist. Most folks don't know that. I'll put all this in the comments, the chat.
Yeah.
What's the website for you just mentioned Chicago Housing Trust?
Chicago Housing Trust. Sure. Chicago Housing Trust is just chicagohousingtrust.org.
Okay.
So anyone can literally go to their website. They can click on the Apply Now tab and they'll see a list of everything they need to apply. On that same tab, they'll see registration so that they can sign up for our orientation. Again, it's no charge. That orientation gives them a certificate, which they can utilize for up to a year. We also connect them to our HUD counseling agencies, and they go through that entire budget conversation with that HUD counseling agency. And in addition to that, if they're thinking of purchasing a multifamily, they can then also sign up for landlord training through CIC or some of the other organizations here in Chicago. So there are opportunities out here. It's just really about understanding who to talk to and who to connect to. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're never going to get anywhere. I love being in the room with people that are making it happen. The Benita Harrisons of the world, other powerful women in this industry, people that I can lean into. I mean, that's extremely important. That's extremely important.
And what you're saying is basically seek out the information. I have peers that I'm ashamed to say, like, well, who taught or how did you find out? Well, you know, because you grew up. I was like, it's called audacity. It's called, you see these books behind me, I read. I want to learn. I'm like always taking classes, podcasts, master classes, fellowships. Like this information is not just going to be necessarily like posted on a website. You got to seek it out and find which website. I run into so many people who had issues, errors, just didn't know, went through the process by themselves, didn't ask questions. Basically, don't be afraid to ask questions and ask people.
I was that person in 2006. I'll be honest. I had a great job. I was making good money. Someone came to me and was like, you know, you can get pre-approved. And at that time, 2006, everybody was getting pre-approved.
Everybody.
I got pre-approved for $350,000. I don't even know how that happened, but I was excited. I jumped right in. I started looking at properties. I purchased my property, but I didn't sit down and figure out, okay, here's your exit strategy. Even though you're purchasing, everybody should always have an exit strategy. Does that mean if something happens, you need to rent it out? Does that mean you need to have other family members come and live with you? We have such a disdain even about that strategy, but other cultures bring their families in. Everybody pays a little bit of that money towards their mortgage, and in 2 to 3 years, everybody in that house ends up going and buying their own property. 3 years. Okay, we're going to focus on this family member. Okay, now we're focusing on this family member. But for a lot of people throughout our community, there is such a disdain with even having that conversation about living multi-generational inside of a property. But cultures, we did it back in the day.
We did.
And other communities are still doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
some takeaways that I would love to you share.
Yeah.
If we have a savings account for our home, if we're a homeowner, and if you get pre-approved for a $400,000 loan, should you take and buy a $400,000 house?
I would say if you can afford it, go for it. But again, you got to know your exit strategy. We always go into this. One of the things I talk to my clients about is we know that we want you to have this experience, right? We want you to feel good. We want you to be excited. They're breaking curses throughout their family. Some of them are the first homeowner in their entire family. But at the same time, I also prepare them for if something goes wrong, if you need to transition out of this house, what does that look like? So, for example, I have a client who's purchasing, she's looking at a property in Calumet City. The property, to your point earlier, is not the sexiest property. It is not HGTV worthy. But you know what she told me? And I felt so proud of her. She said, Cassandra, I'm going to take every room, and every few months, I'm going to focus on fixing each room. And we have to also get out of our own way. We might not be able to afford that dream house. It's coming, but we might not be able to afford it today. So we just have to wrap our brains around, this is going to help get me established. This is going to help me understand the importance of ownership. I might be able to rent this out at some point. Now I could take some of that rental income and use that to go purchase that dream home that I want. That's the type of thought process that we have to have. There should always be an exit strategy.
You talked about the trauma that our ancestors, kinfolks experience, and we know we're in April. It's April 1st. No fools here,
Yes.
although I fooled myself several times with some hiccups. It's Fair Housing Month. Uh,
Yeah.
Time to reflect on equity in housing. In your view, how far have we come since the Fair Housing Act that was passed in 1968 by President John?
So unfortunately, we haven't come very far. This is something that we continue to talk about. When I say we, I mean realtors in the industry. Shouts out to the Dearborn Realtors Board, an organization who was created to help, continue to educate the community, help make sure that we had equitable housing. But before the Fair Housing Act, the Black home ownership rate was significantly lower than the white households, which we already knew. The Black home ownership rate was around 38% in 1960. And at that time, the white home ownership rate was 65%. So fast forward to today, and I have some statistics here because I believe in sharing information that is accurate. In 2023, the home ownership rate among Black households was 45.7%, which is still significantly lower than 74.3% among white households. And that is a decline from the peak. The peak was in 2004 when the Black home ownership rate was 49%. We have a lot of work to do.
Let me ask you this question, right? Is this, if I was to be the devil's advocate and say, well, it's not that it's discrimination. It's not that it's not discrimination about your race or disability. They just happen to have wealth. Don't blame us for having generational wealth.
Yeah.
So is it a both and, you answer that.
So I would say that there are some key things that help to push and keep the Black home ownership rate down. And we're still dealing with some of that today, April 1st, 2025, during Fair Housing Month. One of the biggest is appraisal bias. So an appraiser comes into our community who is not from our community. Maybe they're from the north suburbs, right? Maybe they don't understand the value in Englewood. Maybe they don't understand that I want to be next to this grocery store. I want to be next to this restaurant, or maybe I want to be next to this school. To us, that's valuable. Right. But to someone else that's coming in the community that doesn't understand what we deem valuable, they're going to look at just numbers, right? Oh, this is this amount. Okay, this is this amount. So then you deal with appraisal bias, because most of the appraisers don't look like us. That's one of the biggest issues. That has always been an issue, and it's still an issue to this day. So if you get a 2-flat in Englewood and it needs rehab work, you're looking at about $250,000, $300,000 for a 2-flat that needs rehab. Well, I'm in the process of selling a 2-flat on the north side in Logan Square, and that needs significant rehab. And guess what that's on the market for? $599,000. Same 2-flat. That is the power of appraisal bias. That's the impact that it has on our community. You're talking about almost a $300,000 difference in value just because of where that building is versus it being in Englewood. So imagine having all of these owners in Englewood or some of our other communities, south and west sides of Chicago, who have these beautiful gray stones, right? These gray stones are being evaluated. They're being evaluated for under 200,000. Maybe if it needs rehab, 150, 160. I saw one the other day, it was like 165. That same gray stone on the north side, same condition, $400,000. And then you still have to put another $150,000 in work back into that 2 flat. That's the impact of appraisal bias in our community. So it is going to be extremely challenging for us to build the equity that other communities have built, because these are programs and systematic policies that we did not create, but they affected us the most, and they still affect us today.
What can we do about it? What are the Dearborn Realtors and other realtors? What do you do about the appraisal bias?
Get involved. Get involved. Teach our younger generation that you don't have to go to college. I love college. I'm not against college, but we need our people in the trades. We need our people in these trades that are going to help shift the narrative in our community. So real estate brokers, home inspectors, appraisals, they need to understand and see people that are in this industry in these various roles so that they can understand, oh, wow, okay, I can do that. And I'll give you an example. To become an Illinois realtor, you only have to be 18. So you can literally be in high school, finishing up your high school, getting your diploma. As soon as you come out of high school, you can go into real estate. Now you don't have to worry about student loans. If you want to go to college, you can pay through college. Go to a community college. These are the conversations that we need to have within our households, because we try so hard to live a lot of times outside of our means. We don't have to. So it's really important for our communities to be in those positions, especially appraisals, so that we don't have to continue to fight this uphill battle. But just imagine that that's the case for 40 plus years, and that's continuing to be the case. Imagine what that's doing to our community and to our wealth, to our equity.
Can you contest stuff like that? Is that when you see
you can contest it? Now, some people might not contest it because some people don't know that they can contest it.
Okay.
So it's really important to help people understand, yes, you can contest this, but there was also just a new rule that was brought out by HUD last week. And I was trying to type it here while I was talking to you, because there is a new rule that has changed how someone can contest their appraisals. People need to know stuff like that. We're so distracted with all of these other things that are going on. Meanwhile, there's a new guideline that tells you, oh, some things are changing with how you can contest appraisals. And now moving forward, appraisers, lenders don't even have to tell people honestly that they can contest it. That's one of the updates. I'm trying to look it up because I want to give you facts.
These are good.
It's
good.
You say what?
I said this is all good. Drop it in the chat and I'll make sure it's in all over the podcast, all over the YouTube. You do a lot of educational workshops in person and virtual. What are some of the common myths and misunderstandings you're hearing from clients about buying a home?
That people can't. Right? That they can't because they keep listening to everybody else. They're listening to somebody who purchased a home 10 years ago. They're listening to somebody who purchased a home during COVID. They're telling them, oh, I got 3%. I got 2%. Ooh, it's 6% now. Ooh, you're going to do that? I'm at 2%. I wouldn't dare. But my parents had 13%. They had 11%. I mean, so again, it's just about education and bringing awareness to, yes, we're not going to see those rates again, but here's how you fight to make sure that you don't stay at that 6%. At some point, the market's going to correct itself. We don't know when, we don't know how. Buy the house now. Buy the house. We say, marry the house, date the rate, which means you purchase the house. And yes, you pay that 6.5%. You pay that 7% if you need to. And if you're smart, you'll go and buy a multifamily. So that way you don't have to eat the cost of that high interest rate. You have your tenants eat the cost within reason, because long-term tenancy is also a great way to help build generational wealth. You can't build that if you're moving tenants in and out every year. So there's different ways that you can combat that high rate. You don't have to stay in that rate. And once the interest rates go down, if you choose to, if it makes sense financially, you can refinance. There's so many things that you can do to help fight that interest rate. It doesn't have to always be so fearful. We like to lead people through fear a lot of times based on our own experiences. We just have to stop listening to everybody.
You have to cut out the tape. And it's interesting. Everything you're saying is so spot on because I hear exactly what you're saying. And folks like, I'm gonna wait till the market goes down. It's like, we're in the middle of inflation. Buy the house now, refinance later. I mean, at one point, eggs was damn near $20. Like
Exactly.
people don't understand. It's like, if anything, all people take away is like educate yourself. Go
Educate
study
yourself.
yourself. Understand that the market will have to reset itself. The government will always make sure that stock market is going to crash. They're going to make sure it's
Absolutely.
right back up. It's like educate yourself. Do not just listen to TikTok videos. Don't listen to just
You
snippets.
can't. You can't. You have to. And people, it's a lot of clickbait out there, right? It's a lot
Yeah.
of clickbait. People
God.
are clicking on it. They're jumping down that rabbit hole. Get into the room. If you see a workshop, just go to the workshop. That doesn't mean that you're tied to that realtor. That doesn't mean that you're tied to that lender. If there are educational sessions that are happening, put yourself in the room. We just had one for Women's History Month with one of my lender partners over at Associated Bank. There were people who were at all levels of ownership. Some people owned in the past, some people have never owned before. But there was a collective effort in that room to help dispel all of those myths. And what happened in that room was magical. People started having conversations. I mean, we had to put people out. They were having so many conversations about what they want to do and what they aspire to do. And they had people in the room that had that same thought process. You got to get yourself in the room with the people that have that same thought process. You will see your life grow exponentially once you change that circle. I'm telling you from experience. You know this yourself.
Well, because I'm going to say the naysayers, well, I don't know where to go. How do I get myself in those rooms? Where do I find those workshops? These are the things I hear. Because you're in the business, Rashanah. Where do you find the workshops? Where do you find the organizations? I don't know. I don't have that at my house.
Get out there, ask the questions. You can reach out to me. Honestly, you can come to me. If I can't help you with something, I'll point you in the right direction. I mean, having relationships with agencies is important. So NHS, some of the other agents, those relationships matter. When I can call you on the phone and say, hey, Rashawn, I need this. Or if I can call someone else and say, hey, I need this. I have a client who has questions and they need to get in that home buyers workshop that you guys have. They need to get in that financial fresh start program. Do you still have room available? It's important to be able to have those relationships. So if they don't know where to go, they can start with me. I mean, I think I know a little bit about real estate. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years now. I can't even believe that. I said that. That's my first time saying that out loud. Like in 2026, I would have been in the industry since 2006 as an investor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, I've sold, I've lost, I've purchased. I'm standing in my 2-flat right now on the south side of Chicago. My tenants are downstairs. I'm owner occupied because I don't want to pay my whole mortgage. I don't. I want to live my soft life.
I love it. Me too. I get a roommate or a husband. I'm tired.
Listen.
I'm tired of taking care of myself. I am independent, but I need help. I've never said I need a man. I need a man.
And we want to be independent, but we also want to be interdependent. I want that help, right? So if that means a tenant, my husband, whoever, I want that help. I receive that help and I am okay with that.
Sprinkle it out there. I'm okay with help. I want you to help me open my doors, fix my leaky sink in there right now. You sit on so many boards, a lot of community boards, and lead a lot of community initiatives that you just talked a plethora about all the great resources. What does legacy mean to you as a Black leader, a Black woman leader in this business, in this real estate business?
Oh my God, it means everything, right? Because I have people that are looking at me. I talked about my daughter. She came in the industry in 2021 after seeing the impact, right, that I was having in communities, but also understanding the passion that I had. I was bringing her to all of my workshops. I was bringing her to all of my classes. She was answering my phone sometimes. She was, responding to rental inquiries, right? And so just being able to have her in the industry, and now having my grandson actually did a walkthrough with my daughter a few months back, and my buyer client was purchasing this house, and they unfortunately had, as they were moving some of the staged furniture out, they had damaged some of her walls. To this day, she calls me and asks about him, and she calls him the inspector.
Okay.
As he was going through this house during the final walkthrough, I purposely wanted him to go to this final walkthrough with my daughter. He was pointing out all of the scratches, right? All of the dings. And he said, look, and they messed up right here, and they did this. And so her whole family calls him the inspector now. And as a matter of fact, when she closed, she sent him a $50 gift card and said, this is for the inspector. So it's important that my family, generations that are coming after me, and not even just my family, your family, right? Generations that are coming after you. It's important that they see us in these spaces making these moves. Do I want to sometimes just say, you know what, I don't feel like going to a board meeting? I do. Do I feel like, listen, when Felicia Slayton Young, executive director of the Greater Englewood Chamber of Commerce, reaches out to me, I can't tell her I don't have time. Okay. I have to pull my bootstraps up, right? I have to get myself together, if that means getting on a Zoom, because it's important. And I know that what we're doing is going to help reshape the community. Shouts out to them, by the way. We just got the emerald. I don't know if you saw that. I got a
Congratulations, Englewood Chamber of Commerce, doing
yes,
great
yes,
things
yes,
outside
yes.
Chicago. And talk about the importance a little bit about when they say get involved. You're on a board. What does that mean?
Yeah. It means, your time and your talent. A lot of it is volunteer work, but the overall,
Involved. You're making change.
you making change. And again, I mean, you're the same way, right? Sometimes it's not always easy to have 4 or 5 events to go to in one day, and you still have your own event that you're hosting, right? Sometimes that's what it means.
I be
But
sitting in the corner on the phone at an event, like, okay, give me 30 more
listen,
minutes. I'm gonna get off. I be having the earbud. I'm
listen.
the queen of being at 3 places at once. And I was like, how did you? Yeah.
You know what's crazy that you say that? The last event that I attended with you, it was a phenomenal event with Commissioner Boatwright and Commissioner Castaneda.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you were in the car putting your lashes on. And I was like, how is that even happening? You was like, Cassandra, can you open that door for me? And can you grab, I mean, but that's what people don't see, right? They see this. They see this. They see our social
Basically,
media.
you just go everywhere. And someone once said to me, you used to go to a nice lot of events. You a socialite. I was like, you don't see
Yeah.
that me and her on 85 boards that we helping make decisions for these organizations that we don't get paid for.
Nope. But we understand that there is a greater
Yeah.
goal in mind, and that is to make sure that when we leave this earth, the decisions that we've made are able to help our generations live and foster wonderful relationships and grow our communities, because that's what we're here for. We don't do it just for us. If that was the case, I would say no every time somebody asks, but it's not about me. It's not about you. Yes, we look beautiful in our wonderful ball gowns going to all of these sneaker balls, but there's a purpose and a passion in everything that we do. And for legacy, for me, that's what it means. But it also means growing, right? So I can't just be a realtor forever. I aspire to grow into the development space. And so I'm inspired by Bonita Harris, and I'm inspired by the other women that were just on the news, talking about the missing
Sierra
middle.
vote rights. Commission Sierra
Absolutely.
vote right. The city of Chicago's first Black
Absolutely.
millennial. We may even say first woman commissioner of DPD. I hope we're not getting that wrong, but I'm pretty sure she is the first woman of DPD commissioner, and she's a millennial like us.
And it's important, right? It's important for us to see these people in these high places, right? Being able to make these decisions. And I see her all the time. It's so inspiring to walk down the hall and see her moving back and forth, moving and shaking throughout City Hall, right? I see Commissioner Castaneda moving and shaking throughout City Hall. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to her earlier today. She was getting ready to go to a council meeting. It's important to be in those types of rooms. It's important to build those relationships. And for me, that's what legacy is about. It's about making sure that I plant those seeds so that when I leave, those seeds can continue to grow.
What's a piece of advice you would give an aspiring homeowner or real estate professional that walking away from this conversation, after walking away from this conversation?
Don't do it for the money. Don't do it for the money.
But I need to get paid.
Here's how I feel about that. And this is just my belief. I have never gone hungry as a real estate broker. Have I had to shift gears and pivot? Absolutely. But that's the industry, right? You learn how to pivot. You learn how to be a little bit more resourceful with how you spend your money. You learn how to be a little bit more diligent with making sure that you are a good steward of your finances. Because today I could have 3 closings. Next month after that, I might not have anything. But that does not mean that I don't work. I'm still working, right? I'm still in the lab, as they say. I'm still jumping on consultations. I'm still talking to clients. I'm still in the room with lenders. I'm still in board meetings trying to figure out policies that are going to help shape our community. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. But if you're doing it to simply make $1, you will not last. And people will understand who you are. They will understand what's your focus. That's why I don't have a problem with people. Cassandra, can you talk about this? Can you do a panel? I don't mind those things. And I know sometimes that's not always paid, but if I can help teach a few people, if I can help inspire a few people, if I can help be a resource to someone, to me, that's all the pay that I need, because financially it's going to pay me. I'm going to get paid in the long run. I don't necessarily need to see the money up front. And that's what a lot of people need to understand. Sometimes you get paid in experience. And I feel like a lot of the things that I do, I get paid in experience. And I appreciate it, because you can't put a dollar amount on what I've learned in the industry since 2006. I wouldn't know how to evaluate that. That's how important this experience has been to me in my life.
Oh. How can we get in contact with you to get this knowledge, to be a client of yours, to come to your workshops, your virtual stuff? How can people find you?
Simple. I keep it simple. They can text Miss Cass to 85377. I'm going to put it in the chat for you.
Oh, that's it.
Text Miss Cass to 85377. That comes directly to my phone. I'll respond. If it's after business hours, I'll respond as soon as I get up. Text Miss Cass. Let me make sure I got it right. Hold up.
Miss Cass, MSCASS.
Yep. I'm getting ready to
What's the earliest you start? What's the earliest you start? You respond.
I messed up. Hold on. 85377, not 85337. Hold on. I'm deleting it. I'm usually up by 7. Honestly, I'm usually up and answering the phone by 7.
Oh, you making a donut.
I have to. And I would say between 7 and 7. I usually try to shut down just for balance, which there really is no such thing, but just boundaries, right?
Yes.
So by 7, I'm usually shutting down. So this was actually perfect, because my brain starts to go do.
There's that energy level. I'm an early riser too, and after I'm not in college anymore. When I can stay up and be working on the paper up to my body, I would just fall over and just go to sleep. Yep, okay, I can't adult anymore. So,
nope. Or when I go out, I'm like, I need to be in by 10, because it's like I start. I'm like, what time is this? What time does this get together?
I like staying at home watching. I will get dressed and I will go to an event like church finger. People, I don't even say goodbye to my friends anymore, because they try to guilt me into staying. So they know they'll look around like Rashanah then snuck out and left. I'm like, hey guys, I'm home. They're like, I love peace. I love to relax, and I don't. After a while, I can't socialize anymore.
And I'm an extrovert, but a lot of people don't know is I don't have a lot of company in my home. I'm very private when it comes to that because I give so much
Yes.
outside of my home. When I come home, most of the time I don't even want my husband here. I'm not gonna even lie, I love him to death. Look,
Y'all have separate y'all have those rooms. That means you have some extra rooms then. Okay.
listen,
Yeah.
I have my home office. He's in the living room, and then I have another office, another office, but I have like my own dressing room area in the back if I just want to watch Netflix and chill and I don't want to be bothered. And he knows that and he accepts that. So I love it. You know, you really have to understand your mate. And he understands me because I'm peopled out by the time I come home. I've given so much. And so I don't really have a lot of big gatherings here. I'm outside. When I'm outside, I'm like, I'm sharing. And when I come home, I need to refill my cup. And so that's a lot of what I do. So I feel you. I'm not really I don't need to be out. I'm a homebody. Netflix and chill me all day.
Love it. Anything else you want to add as we conclude?
Yeah, I just want to add that, you know, for people that don't understand the impact of Fair Housing Month, we really need to get involved and understand what that means to our community, what it means to future generations, understanding what policies are being put forward, whether it's a local policy, a state policy, or a national policy, and get involved. For Illinois policies, you can always make a trip down to Springfield, right? Talk to our elected officials, advocate for what you believe. What we might not see eye to eye, but still advocate. Boots on the ground. That's what it's about. Boots on the ground.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Miss Cass
Thank you.
Cassandra Sneed. You're amazing. Thank you
How
so
are
much.
you? Thank
All
you.
right.
Have a good night.
Thanks for tuning in to Someone You Need to Know. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the podcast on all major platforms and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Rashanah B, for more inspiring stories. Until next time, keep shining, keep building, and keep making the world a better place, one story at a time.